Hello Year 10, Miss Sorby here, just doing a video for our double period today. I'll go through it with you and you'll need to stop and take some notes, but you can do that at your own leisure. Hopefully you have your books. If not, make sure you've got a bit of paper. You'll have to put this work in when you get back to school. Okay, so we're going to look at Fiona Hall, who's one of the artists in this unit that explores the ideas of nature and environmentalism in unique sculptural forms. So you'll need to pause this and write these notes down in your book. So Fiona Hall is one of the most prominent artists in Australia at the moment. She's known for works that she takes basic materials and turns them into organic forms. So she's quite famously taken items like soap and salmon tins and different sorts of household materials and turn them into these very organic, natural-esque type creatures. So she works across a broad range of media. She's done a fair bit of photography and installation work, but generally she's known for like the museum type display works. Like, you know, when you go to a museum and they're sort of like categorized and classified into different sorts of Latin terminology. She sort of bases a lot of her work on that scientific classification, but has different forms of meaning depending on what she's trying to say. So recurring themes in her work include she looks at globalization, so the idea of, expanding social networks, the relationship and that sort of versus relationship between ecology and economy, systems of classification, as I said, and in some work she's looked at war and conflict. But we're more looking at that ecology and classification side, but there's an undertone of a meaning and messages in these works. So I'll let you watch this and then we'll move on. I'll press play.
These amazing botanical sculptures have been made out of sardine tins. They've been made by the Australian artist Fiona Hall, and they allude to exotic species, but also to the Western world's notion of the Garden of Eden, a notion that had been fueled in the 18th century by the many exotic species brought back from the South Seas by the European explorers. Paradise they thought may be lost to the Northern Hemisphere, but maybe, just maybe, this was paradise regained. And this happy thought is reflected in some of the names they gave. The grapefruit, for example, they called Citrus paradisus. Fiona calls the whole set Paradisus terrestris, implying that paradise on Earth is genetic diversity, and that paradise can easily be lost if we allow continued environmental degradation. Where the lid of the sardine tin has been rolled back, we peer in and find human body parts. We also catch a glimpse, I think, of the artist's whimsical imagination and her sense of humour, because it's as if we've pulled back the surface to find these little anatomical bits in their underground hidey hole. Fiona Hall's leaf litter consists of 183 sheets. Each sheet is a life-size portrait of a leaf, meticulously painted in gouache over the banknotes of the leaf's country of origin. The work is so fragile, it has to be very carefully stored and preserved. Paper conservator Andrea Wise is one of the people responsible for its care.
We put so much energy into ensuring this work has the highest quality of care because the works are so finely painted that we really need to check each millimetre of the leaf before and after it is on display.
I have to say it's fortunate that this found its way quickly into a national collection because it's so fragile, isn't it?
It is fragile. But I think if it's handled correctly and displayed and installed correctly, then it's certainly got a long life ahead of it. This is a personal favourite of mine. It's a beautiful seaweed here on the English banknotes, but the way it's painted is so fine and delicate, and I just love the seed pods.
Is that what they are? Like little pearls, aren't they?
That's right. They're sort of almost like the pearls in an Elizabethan portrait.
Yeah.
They're so finely painted.
I'm interested in the way she allows the leaf to become transparent in places, to let the person on the banknote through, as it were, so we can see. And I love it that she's got a cabbage leaf here with Her Majesty the Queen.
Fantastic, isn't it? That's actually an inherent part of this particular work, in that the artist has worked the gouache quite thinly in some areas and quite thickly in others. The gouache by its nature is quite flaky and crumbly and dry, and the works themselves, the multiple works, are held together with a paper tape on the back, which allows them to flex and move. So we now have this flap of card, which Fiona Hall has attached, but instead of trying to adhere it to the wall with anything, we actually pin through it. That allows the work to sit very close to the wall, but allows the lower part of the work to move and flex, which is part of the artist's intent.
Fiona Hall is passionately concerned about the protection of the environment, and she worries that some environments are being severely overtaxed by the demands of commercial profitability. She reminds us that some of the once most verdant parts of the world are now amongst the poorest. I think it's the meticulous attention that she brings to the anatomy of each leaf that makes this work memorable. Well, certainly for me it does, because she brings us face to face with the fragile beauty of nature and how easily it can be sold out for cash. We know that money doesn't grow on trees, but Fiona Hall seems to be reminding us that there are some things that no amount of money will buy.
All right, I hope that was useful. I hope you liked the jazz as much as I did. So, gives you a bit of an insight into her practice. I know that was more based on her 2D work, but there's some inference there to her 3D practice, as well as those sort of key themes of the human's impact on nature. So, So what I'm going to get you to do is pause, look at this work. I want you to look at the title up the top. So see what it's made out of mainly. And I want you to give a description this is in your book, of the work to someone who's never seen it before. How would you verbalize to someone about this work? What is it? What can you see? After that, I want you to, what do you think this work is about? What's the message being communicated? Look at the materials used, look at the images, make an inference or a hypothesis about what you think this work is about. Please, sentences, do not just write one word. Okay. Similar, I want you to do a paragraph thereafter, and I want you to look at this work. It's called Dead in the Water. And I want you to explain how the artist's choice of materials and actions create meaning in the work. So look at they've used plumber's plastic pipe. There's wire, there's resin, there's a bit of glass and wood in there. Look at the shapes and the sculptures themselves. They're quite naturalesque looking, but they're like the title as well gives a few things away. So make an inference there how the materials and how she's created that sculpture have created meaning in the work. I'll give you a minute to do that. So pause, do that, and then I'll move on. Moving on. This is an example that I typed up. So talking about the use of the plastic plumbing and the beaded forms, how it looks like they're aquatic animals. And it sort of is a juxtaposition between what she's created and also what she's produced them out of. So the mass-produced plastic bathroom pipes. They're set in resin, which is a plastic sort of liquid. So that sort of statement about the impact, or we're trying to replicate the aquatic environment and the impact that's going to have. I found a quote that she said as well. So she calls the work like living death, and she writes that for most of us in a living world of manufactured products, we tend to think we are looking out for nature and we forget that we are nature. So that's an interesting quote saying that, you know, we think having plumbing and using plastic throughout the grounds, you know, we're doing the nature a favor, but actually, you know, humans have been living on the earth for thousands of years without plastic plumbing, and, you know, we're having issues with the environment now, just sort of thinking about that we, you know, where we fit in the ecosystem. So food for thought. So, bit of prac. What I'm going to get you to do is I want you to go outside or find some tree branches or leaves or something, and I want you to do some drawings, at least 3, like using lead pencil. From these drawings, I want you to create a series of, well, you can do metal whimsical sculptures. I understand that we're restricted of what you've got at home, so you're going to have to be a bit inventive. Most houses have aluminium foil. Think about, you know, you might have some wire in the shed. You might have some, like Dad might have something. Mum might have some jewelry or something. So find some materials and create some form of sculpture based on Fiona Hall's work. So what I want you to do is do that. I want you to take a photo, paste them in your art book if you can, if not, save it to when you get to school. But also email me what you do. I'd love to see where you guys take this. Whether you do the intricacies of the veins in a leaf or the tree branch itself, or go wild. I'd really like to see how you take it. Okay, I will leave you with this. Any questions, please email me. I think I'm assuming I'll be Zooming you beforehand just to give you a heads up. But enjoy, have fun, go wild. I will talk to you all very soon.